Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, God, Father, is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give they left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3, kill!
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another 4-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever's necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefit of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
So prophetic. Welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen, live from studio number 1 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. Deep down in the broadcast bunker, please follow me on Spreaker. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. The email to the show, scrtv@live.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208. If you're listening via podcast, there is a voicemail line, 412-567-1460, if you'd like to be heard on the broadcast. The podcast is available at the 405media.com every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, on demand at iHeartRadio and Apple's or iTunes or whatever it's called now. It's everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Just go look. It's out there, whatever platform you're on. There's also a free Cold War Radio app available in your app store. The show is also available on YouTube with captions, fully transcribed. If you know anybody that has hearing difficulties but still wants to follow along, please go to steelcityresistance.com. That's the hub. You can become a Cold War Radio patron in the right-hand margin. You can catch the research room where there's just an increasing amount of knowledge, data that is there. If you have a subject that you're going to have to debate on, it's a good place to check. The video page highlights the videos of the audio clips we play on the radio. If you want to write to the program, write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 10433, 370 Castle Shannon Boulevard, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15234. I had to update the slider rotation because somebody likes that song. I do too. Let's turn our turrets around and go to the northern neck of Virginia and welcome Jack to the program. Hello, Jack.
Hey, nothing but the dog in me. Hey, it's good to be back on Friday night. We got lots to talk about, and I think you hinted a little bit we might have somebody showing up here
Yeah, we're going to have a fellow broadcaster on the air with us a little bit later this evening from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Awesome.
Mr. Roderick Threets will be on with us in just a little bit. Man, we have a lot going on here. Let me just get the immediate stuff out of the way. We said on Monday that we're shooting for 40 patrons. We currently have 28. We had 26 when I made that challenge, when I issued that challenge, if you will. We want to get up to 40. We know that the 26 patrons, outstanding people, have been, some of them have been supporting us for quite a long time, and I thank you all very much. But ladies and gentlemen, they need some help. And a couple people stepped on board after that, and then it's still riding at 28. But if we get to 40 by the new year, I'm going to add another night. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go. I got to talk to some people. But first, we got to get some more patrons. So if you're capable of doing that, and again, I'll say this does not apply to anybody that's already a patron. That's not what this is about. We need some additional folks to come online and give us a hand. So there you go. That's that. We're at 28. Now, Jack, I saw something today that I saw it yesterday that really disturbed me. I mean, you're starting to see the old school Democrats and business associates, especially of Joe Biden, starting to endorse him. His business associate in the Ukrainian embezzlement or shakedown or whatever you want to call it, John Kerry.
What?
Has now joined Joe Biden on his malarkey tour on his bus. So maybe they're getting ready to live close together in close quarters.
Did he ride his pink bike to the endorsement? I thought I heard somewhere that he actually showed up to endorse old, sorry,
Plugs.
Joe.
Yeah. I'll tell you, he looks cadaverous, doesn't he? I've been watching Joe Biden.
I don't know how they've got the fountain of youth going with these folks that should have been put out to pasture long ago.
I'll tell you, I look at him and I think, I wonder about his family. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you expect a guy that is this decrepit? And I mean, he really is. Like I said, I've been watching him for a very long time. And when he used to be pretty much a warrior, right now he's not looking that good, man. I mean, he's feeble, but he's also a gangster. This guy has been in Americans and foreigners' pockets, and I don't mean being in his pocket like you control him. I'm talking about taking your money, being in pockets. And this guy, there was an 83-year-old retired farmer at one of his events, and there must have been, tens of people in this. You know what I mean? It was busting at the seams, but it was a cafeteria or something like that, and they used the most blog talk radio sounding microphone that I ever saw. I had to really edit this thing so you'd be able to hear it.
Yeah, they had Biden double the amplification of anyone that was asking a question.
It was horrible. It was a Radio Shack mic. I mean, it was like I said, it was in a Kiwanis Club dance hall or something. I don't know what it was out in Iowa. But the audio
he interrupted bingo night at that.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much. And I got this stereo clip, and I'm looking at the two channels, and they look different. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? And I couldn't hear it. So I isolated it, and I turned it into a mono. People don't want to hear that. Anyway, let's listen to the clip. You can hear it here better than anywhere else, though. I'll tell you that.
Okay. Joe, I'm an old Iowa retired farmer, and I'm kind of unique because I'm not a Republican. Okay. I've got two problems with you. One is you're damn near as old as I am. You're too old for the job. I'm 83, and I know damn well I don't have the mental faculties I did when I was 30 years ago. All right. The other, forget that stuff. That's all.
Not for good man. I'll answer.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. I got a question I want you to answer. We all know Trump has been messing around in Ukraine over there, holding their foreign aid for them to come up, saying they're going to investigate you. We know all about that crap. And he's no backbone. We know that for that. But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience with gas or nothing, in order to get access for the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he was. So
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that. No one has proved that.
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. By the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on it, let's do push-ups together.
I'm running because I know more than most people know. Yeah. That's what these people are all about. The clip's not over, but I had to stop it because that's critical right there. I know more than most people know. That's going to be the theme of this show tonight, Jack, because that's where we are right now. Let's finish listening to this freaking maniac. Listen what he asked this 83-year-old guy to do.
Man, let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test.
Let's do some push-ups. Let's run. Let's take an IQ test.
No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it.
No.
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
Hey, what?
But I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that in MSNBC. You did not hear that at all. What you heard? Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do. But look, fat. Look, here's the deal.
Fat. Look.
Here's the deal.
It looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does.
Talk. Let him talk.
Any other questions?
Yeah, all right. I'm not voting for you.
Well, I knew you weren't, man. You think I thought you'd stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me. All right, here we go. Someone back here.
So let's break that down because I refuse to say let's unpack that. You know, I don't like following the what everybody else says. Let's just talk about what he said. He said nobody ever said that about my son.
Right.
Nobody ever said that. And
this is on the no malarkey.
Right.
And for those of you that don't know what malarkey means, it equates to a steaming pile of bull excrement.
It's an Irish thing. But let's look at who this guy is. This guy is an 83-year-old retired farmer. I'm going to guess he's not on Facebook. All right, he might be, but I'm going to guess he's not. Where he is, if you'll recall, we had an interview with Tom Tancredo in Iowa. He couldn't even get a cell phone signal. We had to cancel the interview mid-interview. So this guy has obviously new media is making a difference, but he said he heard it on MSNBC, and you heard Joe Biden say, you didn't hear that on MSNBC because he's thinking in the back of his mind, I paid them off.
Yeah. That's one of our stations. They're not going to say anything like that.
I mean, this guy's unbelievable.
Discounting, earlier this year, there was multiple leftist type sites. Politico was one of the outfits that put out a major article questioning his son's and former Vice President Joe Biden's what the hell was going on during that time. And then even during the impeachment deal in the Intelligence Committee, one of the witnesses actually was found out that when she was going to be approved by the Senate, the Obama administration grilled her or actually prepared her to answer the question about what do you think about Hunter Biden serving blah, blah, blah. They prepped her for that in case she was asked during the confirmation hearing.
Yep, that's absolutely right. I mean, and if you look at the video, you're not going to be able to see. You're not going to be able to hear it as well as that mastered copy right there. But you will see Joe Biden when he tells the guy, "You better get your story straight, Jack." He's actually charging this guy, this 83-year-old guy. He's charging him. And then he calls him fat. Tries to, the fake campaign comes out. And says, he said he meant facts.
He said facts. He said, "Listen, fat."
Yeah, right.
Listen, fat.
It's unreal, man.
You want to take him behind a woodshed. I mean,
somebody's going to knock him out there. Is what's going to happen.
Corn Pop's coming back.
I mean, this guy's arrogant. I mean, and he's telling you exactly who and what they are. They all are.
Exactly.
This is something that it's. I hope they pick him. In a way. I mean, on the other hand, I got a humanitarian streak in me, too. He had brain surgery. That's common knowledge.
A couple of times, right?
Yeah. And the guy's definitely not there. I mean, he made so many gaffes already that it's just, he shouldn't be out there, man. He should not be running. He should be retired.
I think they put him out there. Remember that? I mean, it wasn't a month and a half ago that there was a period of time during an appearance that he was talking away from the audience. He was turned around and talking, and it's like, no, Joe, it's this way is the crowd. You got to turn him around, move him.
And they've been caught using green screens before. He was probably looking at a screen. Yeah, he probably thought he was looking at all the people. It's really.
I got tens of people watching.
It's like Hillary. People are knocking my door down to get me to run. Oh my word! Do we have time? Yeah. There is a serious situation today at Pensacola Naval Air Station, or was it today or yesterday? It's fresh.
Today. Pensacola
Naval Air Station. There was a shooting by a Saudi national, Mohammed Saeed al-Shamrani. 3 dead possible terrorists. No, it was definitely a terrorist attack. He was from the Saudi Arabian Air Base learning to fly, and I wondered what got into our national defense mind that we're going to train Saudi Arabian freaking pilots. Why do we do things like this, Jack? Why do we get so trapped by the political correctness that we continue to set the people up to knock us down? Why do we do that?
I don't know. It's a long history. All you got to do is just look at certain dictators that the United States has propped up: Hussein, Noriega, Marcos in the Philippines. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of unsavory characters that we as Americans growing up learning about how we enjoy freedom and all that don't quite understand how our leadership, our federal government, and the cronies within there like to prop up despot dictators. And, you see what happens once they've worn out their welcome. The United States deep state turns on them and takes them out and makes them the bad guy. So there's no surprise. I mean, I'm willing, since President Trump went out there, as soon as he became president, went to the Middle East. Remember the sword dance with him and Tillerson and all the Arab nations after he went one-on-one with all of them? He basically said, I don't want the United States here with the guns and all that. We'll sell you the guns. We'll train your pilots, and you guys take care of this sandbox. We're getting the hell out of here. So
I know that, but I also know that the primary reason for that alliance in the first place was the Standard Oil operations there that turned them into just arrogant.
Aramco, the thing that just went on the stock market.
Right, but back in the Esso days, it was Standard Oil, and it was us. It was the United States of America that went over there from Texas and turn them into
Right.
rich people overnight. But now
Europeans thought there was no oil in Saudi Arabia and said the United States, you can go have that. And it turned out the United States ended up with the big dog oil production partnership with Saudi Arabia.
and it was probably one of the worst things that ever happened, to the world. And then you turn around and you see that we have enough here that we're now an exporter of petroleum products. And you wonder, okay, man, things change. And do we really want to be allied with these savages over there just because the Bushes are friendly with them and the Obamas bow to them? Do we really want to, or do we need to maybe readjust our alliances here? Because I do. I think that looking across the worldscape today, I see our NATO, if you will, era alliances being ridiculous. I see every single English-speaking country of the NATO side, of the Western European, not the newly inducted, and the Turkish, another NATO ally. They're all not doing things in our best interest, let's put it that way, especially with Iran right now. And I just wonder, I don't know. I just think that maybe sometimes this establishment is too caught in its own glue to adjust to anything.
No, it's a big shift.
Except for transgender bathrooms. They could do that in a New York minute.
The United States, and actually any American that believes in our constitutional republic, are under fire. You look at it from anywhere. Look at the impeachment aspect. Look at the Speaker of the House suddenly is supposedly the most holy Christian in the United States. I pray for the president. I'm like, wait a minute.
And more specifically, Catholic, except for when she's pushing for abortion.
Right. I mean, it's so disingenuous. I looked at all the topics and all the things that happened this week, and only one person's name came to mind for the entire thing, every topic involved, and that's Saul Alinsky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that one phrase, you tell or accuse your political enemy of that which you are guilty of. And you look at the fever pitch and all of the things that have been happening since the start of fall. We've got a boiling point coming up, and I think it starts next week with the IG report release.
Oh, no, that won't be covered because that's the first day of the impeachment hearings.
Funny that, right?
Isn't that amazing?
Funny.
I would say to all
I
would say to all of the members, the Republican members of the Senate Judicial Committee, or I mean the House Judiciary Committee, take tomorrow off, man. Don't go to work tomorrow. Don't let there be a quorum there. And maybe there's a quorum without you, and that's even better. Don't even show up. Take a sick day tomorrow. You're authorized it. Congress voted for it. I mean, you're allowed to take sick days. Go ahead, and it'd be a good day to do that on Monday. Monday be a great time. And just that by itself, it's as bad as this is crazy the way this is going. I mean, I don't even think we had to be here. I think we could off ramp this anytime. I don't think that this whole procedure and setup holds water, Jack. I just don't. I think if you put this in front of the Supreme Court, if they had the audacity to do it, which is questionable, I think they'd throw this out and say, stop, man. Come back when you have some evidence.
There is some serious – it's either CYA to the nth where they don't even care what they're doing because they know – I mean, me looking at it from the information that's coming with the Durham report and the IG report, which they've already – the media and a lot of people on the left have already seen some of this stuff and basically are saying, well, the IG's not going to say anything about what happened, preconditioning the viewers and all this when nobody has seen it at all. It's a very important week for America coming up next Monday. We need to stay engaged because what they're trying to do is whitewash they're going to label anyone involved with the reports coming from the Attorney General's IG, and then whatever the Attorney General, they tied him with Durham. They said that he went over to Europe a couple of times, to Italy, I believe. As far as that investigation, they're already throwing shade at the AG, so it's pre-positioning that what is coming is just people trying to keep the orange man in office type thing, trying to say that what's coming out, the news reports from the DOJ and the prosecutor are lies, and that Nancy Pelosi is got herself wrapped up in a flag and she's carrying the Holy Bible to protect, against the destruction of the Republic, when she's the one that's going to burn the Constitution, right?
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, from the snow-capped mountains in the distance, Salt Lake City, Utah's chairman and CEO of the Conservative Enclave, we bring Roderick Threets to the stage. Hello, Roderick. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, Hus. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you allowing me to spend some time with you guys.
And I got Jack,
Awesome.
my co-host, is also on.
Yeah, super excited. Thank you for joining us for this show.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jack. Appreciate it.
All right. So, first of all, before we get, I do have a specific area I want to talk to you about. But first, why don't you tell the audience about your show and what's going on in your world, Rod?
Well, my show, the Conservative Enclave, the name has changed a few times over a little bit. We basically talk no holds barred. We don't hold anything back. We just lay everything out there the way it is and let folks make a decision on with what's presented. As far as the show itself is concerned, we're propelling forward slowly but surely. We're getting there. We're, the consistency, as we had talked about, a few days ago, consistency of being on and people, taking time to listen to you is very, very important. So we're definitely trying to stay concrete in that for sure. But most of all, we have to, with my show, we always preach about liberty and freedom out of every single breath that we take. If it's not talking about liberty, freedom, or the Constitution, we really don't have any time to really mess around with it too much, because our liberty and our Constitution is at stake. It's like people are standing in front of the bonfire at Stonehenge like druids, ready to burn it up piece by piece.
It's amazing that so many, especially of our youth, I guess it's not amazing. It's actually working exactly according to plan. But it's amazing to me to see it happen so quickly, because it's happened, in the last third of my life. I went through the first 2/3 and there was nothing like this. And all of a sudden, people are in the street trying to shut down the banks in Washington, D.C. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you people, don't you have anything in there? And the answer is probably no. They probably do, but it's their parents, and they have no clue. They can't even open a can with a can opener, You look at some of this stuff. All right. You also had, I noticed on Twitter, you were working with trying to put together another organization. Am I right?
It's all the same. The Black Patriot Group is going to be like the media group of the whole thing. I just kind of pulled it out of thin air. It's been around, but I've never started the foundation of it. And now I think now is really the time, especially with elections coming up and all that stuff. And, my constituency here in Utah, under the Utah Black Republican Assembly, it's vital that I figured it was vital to bring that stuff on board and get people, involved in it, so we can, take over these local elections and make sure they're concrete and, in all 32 of our counties that we have here. So, that's where that came from. So it's been around. It just now is kind of rearing its head, because I think the desire and the need is urgent.
All right. So I want to, and good luck with all of that. I'll pay attention.
Thank you.
Anything we can do to help also. But I want to talk about something. I've been on record several times, and if not on record, at least in my head, I never wanted this impeachment fiasco to move to the Senate. That always, I haven't trusted the Senate. I've been watching this stuff for a long time, and we've been down this road before, and I'm going to explain that in just a minute. But Senate Republicans, let's just say that anything that happens detrimental to the United States of America and liberty and the Constitution, as you mentioned, only happens when there's not. Now, years ago, there was a vast Democrat majority in all houses. I'm not talking about those days. I'm talking about where it's close, like it is now and it was back in the 90s. Nothing ever happens bad unless the Republicans let it happen. And what I mean by that is if you look historically, especially in the Senate, but also in the House, historically, Democrats always stick together. The only chance of anything moving to the left happens with Republicans, and it happens mainly with Republican senators. I want to just take a trip back in time here for a minute, and I want to go to February 1999. All right, this is the wrap-up of the Senate impeachment hearing, or trial rather, of William Jefferson Clinton. The Republicans had a 55 to 45 majority, a 10-seat majority, plus the vice president if necessary. No, I take that back. The vice president was Al Gore. But they had a 55 to 45 majority. They had evidence. There were 2 articles of impeachment. Perjury, which was clearly and unequivocally proven, and obstruction of justice that was proven as well. I mean, with evidence, not with hearsay, with evidence and witnesses. Obstruction of justice, I'm sure everybody remembers George Stephanopoulos should still be in prison, as should James Carville, for the things they did to the women in this operation. Okay, so there you have it. By the way, he was with a 10-seat majority in the Senate and evidence of guilt. I mean, the Arkansas bar stripped his accreditation as a lawyer over the same evidence.
Right.
But we couldn't hold together. We could not hold together. On the perjury charge, it was on tape, ladies and gentlemen. The dude lied, and it was proven. Yet, let me name some senators. Chaffee from Rhode Island, Collins, Maine, Gorton, Washington, Jeffords, Vermont, Shelby, Alabama, Snow, Maine, Specter, Pennsylvania, Stevens, Alabama, Thompson, Tennessee. Remember, we ran him for president. And he couldn't see that this guy was guilty. Warner, Virginia. You remember him. He's still around, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still around.
And then for the obstruction, Chaffee, Collins, Jeffords, Snow, and again, Pennsylvania staunch Republican Arlen Specter. I'm going to play a tape. The first thing you're going to hear is, I think, Arlen Specter. Yeah. Arlen Specter is going to explain why he could not vote guilty. And it has nothing to do with the Constitution and nothing to do with American law. And then you're going to hear a couple other commentators, and at the end, the last third, you'll hear the victorious president. Let's listen to Arlen Specter and the gang.
Under Scottish law, there are 3 possible verdicts: guilty, and not proved. And I intend to vote not proved as to both articles. That is not to say that the president is not guilty, but to specifically say that the charges, in my judgment, have not been proved.
Appropriate for us to indicate or to try. As we've said for many months now, the president has said he would be open to some censure. He understands the wrongful nature of his behavior. but it is up to the Senate to make decisions on censure, whether they want to do it, how they want to do it, what the censure would be, and we'll leave it to the Senate to make those decisions. John?
Wow, I don't know. Rod, your thoughts, and then over to Jack.
I mean, first of all, these folks, and I think what Arlen Specter said there is very relevant to what happened the other day, in that I don't know if you want to call it an impeachment hearing or whatever you want to call it, three-ring circus, Barnum and Bailey's, whatever you want to feel like calling it, but it echoes literally the same thing, right? They're quoting from our old monarchy, like they have something to do with what we're doing here 200 some odd years later. I mean, it's just completely preposterous. The other thing is the fact of the matter that the crime was there, and you heard in the statement, he just blatantly just glossed over it like it was a non sequitur, and
Not proven, really, Arlen? Not proven? Yeah. Where'd you see that? Philadelphia? Where'd that come from?
Hey, I want to know what rose-colored glasses he had on when he was talking about that.
Well, just a little more history on that. He ended up then changing his party to Democrat, running for president. But go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, Mr. Specter. I mean, if you look back in history, if you're one of the ones that wonders what the hell happened with JFK, Arlen Specter was one of the ones in the Warren Commission, I believe. It's a young guy.
He was, yep.
He was a DA too, another lawyer. He was a DA.
Yeah, as far as Clinton, when it first came out, I mean, when he became president and came to D.C., there was massive corruption investigations, and then a lot of people started dying. Mm-hmm. Rose Law Firm, Whitewater investigation.
They still are to this day, Jack. I mean,
Epstein did not commit suicide, how many, and we even had it on the show where she's appearing on a show, and actually they're making a joke out of the body count. She's like, joking around with the assumption that the Clintons are responsible for a lot of people, not breathing next days if they're too close to something they're being investigated for. But
I still think the Clintons are the masters for getting that.
No doubt.
Two shots to the back of the head, suicide. That's some good stuff right there.
Was her boyfriend? I digress. But what I said earlier, the theme of tonight's show, in my mind, is Saul Alinsky, accuse your enemy of what you are guilty of. Almost in everything that's in the news right now, that's being pushed by the leftist media and those folks, the flag draped Nancy Pelosi praying for the president with the Bible in her hand. Yeah. Don't fall for it, folks.
Nobody does. I mean, there are some. I happen to know a lot of liberals, and it's amazing to me the way they can screen out truth. I couldn't do that. I told my wife in the truck today, I was like, if Trump was doing all this stuff that the Democrats did, I'd be screaming for his head too. But they're not like that. They just do not. And it's dangerous, Rod, when the media is the same way. When they won't even, I guess they must have let one slip through MSNBC for that Iowa farmer to see it. But, I mean, we know the trends of the way they report, and it's not reporting. They're basically PACs for the Democrats.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you pretty much nailed it, right? But see, here's the other thing with the media, too, what people are not understanding either, especially my friends on the left. And I said this even 10 years ago. I was like, you're going to get in bed with the media, and that same media is going to be that bed of nails you don't realize you're laying on. It's kind of like that.
That's true.
It's kind of like that. This YouTube video I saw, this lady had a nail on her forehead, and she claimed she had a headache, but didn't realize that her husband was trying to help her out, right? He just said, remove the nail. But she said, no, it's not about the nail. You know what I mean? And this is kind of where the left is right now with the media. They've gotten in bed with the media. Now what they've done, oh, yeah, Orange Man bad. Yeah, we can play Orange Man bad all day. But what has happened is they've also tanked folks on their own side, right? Look at what happened with Andrew Yang, right? And Bernie Sanders, and how they've pushed them completely out of the media spotlight to highlight a couple of others. And I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. These guys talk about the media is not really biased, but it's like, here's the thing. The media was so uptight about getting rid of Donald Trump. Don't you think they'll be throwing every single Democrat in everybody's face to super saturate the market of ideas, the market of candidates, to show, hey, we got some great candidates over here? No, you want to eliminate 3, 4, 5, or 6 of them and only put the 2 up that ain't worth a damn. Yeah. And so now they have this thing called impeachment that they're trying to do, right? Because they have nothing else. They realize they have failed. But the other thing the media and the Democrats didn't realize either is starting this impeachment so late, it pulls senators that are running for president off of the campaign trail if it goes to trial. And I don't think they counted on that.
I saw a report that Clyburn was interviewed, James Clyburn, who's like the 3rd most ranking person in the House.
Who woke him up?
Actually, he's the 2nd, because Steny Hoyer got the white privilege move and got bumped ahead of him by Nancy Pelosi, if you remember that. That happened. That really happened. I think they gave him a Dodge Neon or something, and he was cool.
Dodge Neon.
I thought it was a Geo Metro.
There you go, something like that. Maybe it was probably just a Metro Pass. They probably just let him on the subway. But
Gold card Metro Pass.
I heard he had VIP.
VIP seat.
So I heard him say that if this impeachment doesn't work, we should remove impeachment from the Constitution. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen, but this is the mindset. These guys are on a kamikaze mission. It's this or nothing, because they know they're just about finished. And I hope it doesn't lead to where it could lead to, which I might talk about a little bit later. But it's a dangerous thing. It really is. And, I wanted to, in this segment, talk about the Senate and my complete distrust of this. The only thing that makes me sleep well at night is they're not going to get that many of them. They're not getting 20 of them. But I think they're going to get some. I want you to listen to Lindsey Graham.
I'll do what I think is best.
The president also tweeted that we should be hearing from Schiff and the Bidens when the trial comes to the Senate.
That'd be up to him to make his case.
Do you think you should hear from them?
That's his decision to call.
Chairman of the committee.
What I'm focused on right now is, do they impeach him? What are the articles? And I'm waiting to get a reply back about my request for phone calls.
Have you not heard back from the State Department yet?
No.
Do you think that it's okay to subpoena in your committee to subpoena
I haven't made a
records,
decision
phone records?
No, I don't have any desire to subpoena Adam Schiff's phone records. We're not going to do that.
So you're not going to?
No, I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't want my phone records subpoenaed. Now, if some investigative body outside Senate oversight wants to do it, that's up to them. But when House members and senators start subpoenaing each other as part of oversight, the whole system breaks down.
Did you feel like Rep. Schiff crossed the line when he subpoenaed these records that did end up having a member of Congress's?
Yeah, I think what he's doing is setting a very bad precedent. Here's the problem: is when one politician starts subpoenaing phone records of another politician as part of an oversight process, which is sometimes very partisan, it gets to be very problematic for us up here to do our job. Now, none of us are above the law, so if you had a special counsel or a grand jury, then you would be subject like every other citizen, but you could invoke defenses of being a member of Congress. You'll have a certain status there. But when we start looking into each other's phone records and who we talk to, that gets to be chaos, and I will have no part of that.
Should Rudy Giuliani...
Wow. A couple things there. One, the most glaring to me, other than his lack of enthusiasm for getting to the truth, is, did you hear what he said about the privilege of being a member of Congress? I mean, that jumped off this guy. You got Lindsey Graham. Let's look at Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham was a door gunner for John McCain. He's about a 5'4" guy that's a freaking lawyer in the military, the most loathsome people that military people ever have to deal with. This is the guy that comes to you and tells you all the reasons why you can't take the hill. You know what I mean?
Tail gunner.
You know, and I just can't imagine this little dude being up there. You know, I mean, he's not married. I mean, all right, so, okay, maybe, who knows, you know, but I think they probably have something on him. I don't trust him at all, and he's going to be the freaking point man. And the only people that are going to be able to guide him, you know, with any level of authority is Mitch McConnell. So, Rod, are you enthusiastic for this Senate? I mean, everybody's going to jail, right? We're going to call everybody in front of this committee.
Hey, you know what, though? Here's the thing, right? And I said this a few weeks ago. Donald Trump is the ultimate whistleblower, right? And I say that because all these cats, all 534 of them, or I'm going to say 533 of them, are running scared right now because they know this Ukraine thing opened up a whole can of what the hell just happened today. And they all know it. That's why you kind of hear the shivering in not Adam Schiff, but Lindsey Graham's voice. You hear it. You heard it in Adam Schiff's voice. You heard it in Nadler's voice. And when they come do these press conferences in front of everybody, like, we're going to get the MFer and all that, right? and you hear it in their voice because they know they're so tied into this Ukraine situation and Romania, and I'm not going to get into all that here. We don't have time for all that, but there's this draw that Americans, right, have to Ukraine, right? I call it the extension of imperialism, right? It's instead of being militarily, it's politically or financially, and all those people are in their pockets. All right, forget Soros a second. Forget him. Forget that cat a second. Just our American oligarchs are sitting fat off of Ukraine.
Oh, it's already spread over to Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's already implicated. I mean,
Pelosi's son is involved in the Ukraine.
Yeah, right.
Kerry's son.
Yeah.
And I mean, and let's, and I've said this for a decade. Get me somebody like Elliot Ness had, and let's go over the records of Saudi cash transactions in D.C. Let's see where that oil money goes, and I'm going to guess Lindsey Graham's going to take vacation that day. You know, it's just I just wanted to what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to get everybody on a battle footing. It's not easy sailing just because it's going to the Senate. These people in the Senate are as crooked, and I got to tell you, especially the Senate Intelligence Committee, is so damn powerful. It's more powerful than a normal president. Now, I'm not going to say it's more powerful than President Trump, because President Trump is capable of doing some off-the-wall things for success, believe me, and thank God he's there. Let's go to King George in Virginia. Ken, what's going on? There's some serious things going on in Virginia right now. Wow. Maybe I'll talk about it while you're on the call. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's crazy stupid down here. Now, for anybody that lives in Westmoreland County, next Wednesday, I believe.
VFW.
The normal Board of Supervisors meeting happens next Tuesday, the 10th, but because there's so much stuff on the docket, I think they're pushing the Second Amendment sanctuary vote to the 11th, which is next Wednesday. So anybody that lives in Westmoreland County.
And ladies and gentlemen, just so you don't make the same mistake I did, A lot of people listen to the show from Pittsburgh, not Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, which is right adjacent to where we are, Ken. So it's Westmoreland County, Virginia.
It's actually the adjacent county to King George. I've got a few coworkers that are planning on showing up, and they're worried about the venue being overrun, kind of like what happened here in King George last Tuesday. So the VCDL, Virginia Citizens Defense League, collected over 2,000 signatures in just under an hour last Tuesday. So, there's a lot of people that are finally starting to wake up. And when I was talking to a couple of my coworkers, they were like, well, these guys are all mad, but this is happening, that's happening. And I asked them, did you vote? And they were like, well, no, we didn't vote. And, well, okay, this is what happens when you don't vote in local elections.
Let me read a couple paragraphs from the American Thinker and William L. Gensert. The article is entitled "Democrats Are," and I don't want to sound like a tinfoil hat guy, and I'm not. This is real. Democrats are pushing America into civil war. Civil war becomes likelier with every passing day. With the failure of the doddering Mueller's Democrat-inspired coup attempt, the disaster of Schiff's impeachment hoax, and Nadler's Wednesday hearing comprised of angry leftist academics, the country has learned a valuable lesson. The Democrats will never accept Trump as the new duly elected president, no matter how much of a landslide he wins by in 2020. And as Michael Walsh has pointed out, they never stop. They never sleep. They never quit. Unbridled hatred will do that. When Trump wins re-election, look for the, quote, smart party, smart like Fredo, both the mobster and the media moron, to redouble their efforts to depose the president. When Barry descended from the heavens to lead America and the Democrats in the transformation of the nation, the left dispensed with all pretense of respect for Americans. Sure, Democrats use "it's the will of the people" as a catchphrase, but in reality, the people have been nothing but a disappointment to the left. Graciously, the left had given Americans the opportunity to do as they were told, and they refused, costing the Democrats the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 2016. There will be no more trying to rally Americans around to their way of thinking. The people going forward are the enemy. Because of that, the left will be forced to give us the government we deserve to get, good and hard. When the enemy stands between those with blinding hatred in their hearts and the power they crave, there is nowhere else for them to go but to war. There's just one problem with their strategy. Americans see what the Democrats have planned for them. Americans understand what is coming, and I'm honored to be in the company of people that can see this. That's just me. They are coming for those who will not acquiesce to the left's plans for America. All that remains is how the people will react. Normal Americans have had enough. They're going to fight. Trump can only do so much with the media and the Democrats in their entirety opposing him so far. Actually, so far, it's miraculous how successful he has been against such odds. The left's tactics have changed, as we've seen in the recent actions in Virginia. With the Democrats taking over the state government, the first legislation they have proposed for the next state legislative session is nothing more than gun confiscation. Make no mistake, Virginia is a test. Unable to depose the president, they will proceed on a state-by-state basis to create the nation they long for. And disarming Americans is crucial for the Democrats as a first and necessary step, because an armed populace can say no. Will Virginians willingly give up their guns to the Democrats? Some might. After all, Virginia is proximate to D.C., and many will obey. Yet, many will not. Virginia will be the future because the Democrats will brook no dissent. They will come heavy and hard, and it won't be long before there is gunfire and someone is hurt or killed. It will be reminiscent of the shot heard around the world. The actions of the left will have awoken Yamamoto's sleeping giant, which is the many more than 100 million people who legally own guns. What happens then? Democrats might not realize it, but gun owners in other states will arm up and prepare. The left does not understand Americans. Collectively, liberals are nothing more than one nationwide echo chamber where no one who disagrees with them is allowed a voice. Thus, they believe people will quietly and meekly do as they're told. Yet what they will get is rage. They blithely proceed under a delusion, unaware that Americans are not going to give up their guns. Americans believe they can never be too armed, too thin, or too rich. They're willing to take a pass on the last two, but never the first. Rebellion is not out of the question. It is probable. And it is obvious the Democrats do not get that. With hundreds of millions of guns in circulation, it will not be pretty. Americans are the most well-armed and trained populace who have ever existed. Every hunter is something of a sniper. Democrats should think about that. What happens when the left comes for people's guns and citizens start dying by the hundreds or the thousands? Will assassinations of public officials become prevalent? How about acts of terror, such as blowing up bridges and pipelines? What would have happened had the terrorists on 9/11 targeted the George Washington Bridge and the Indian Point nuclear power plant instead of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon? The Democrats are opening a can of worms, and they simply do not understand the consequences. At Nadler's hearing on Wednesday, Jonathan Turley talked of rage. Democrats do not understand what rage is, but they're about to learn. And ladies and gentlemen, I do not take the reading of that lightly. And I just want everybody to understand how serious this is. And I'll ask for comments. I'll go to you, Jack, and then to Rod.
Yeah, I mean, right now.
And then Ken. Ken. I still got Ken on the line, too.
Yeah, I was looking and watching the folks in the chat room and logged in. Virginia, we just basically we're governed by a blackface governor and attorney general and a sexual predator lieutenant governor, all Democrats. And now we have just turned the whole Commonwealth into a completely Democrat legislative body. And the first thing they plan on doing is coming after the Second Amendment, which is why you see the stories that we've done last week and this week about the sanctuary cities of Second Amendment, defending the Second Amendment. Compare that to the sanctuary cities protecting illegal aliens and how much the media promotes that. You won't hear a word from the media about the mainstream on television talking about how Virginians and their voters are going into localities and declaring themselves pro-Second Amendment. There's a fight going on, and it's I mean, I love this Commonwealth of Virginia. It's from mountains to the shore, oceans, riches. The land is beautiful, but we're invaded by the swamp-like people, and we have to fight that back. So, I know there folks across America want these lifetime bureaucrats, unelected folks that think they run this country out. Kick them out. Back to you, Hutch.
I'll go ahead and chime in. Both of you are dead right. I mean, it's this cultural Marxism that we see has been creeping in since the huge progressive movement in the early 20s, right? And what we're really seeing is not so much the left and the Democrats, but the progressive wing of the right is emerging also, and they're all in bed with each other. I mean, if we sit and just look at right now, look at the neocons and the progressives right now and how they are really on the same agenda, right? They're literally pulling the neocons to the left, right? So what do we have left on the right-hand side? Conservatives and libertarians. Everybody else is full-fledged pulled left because they are afraid of the outcome. I mean, we're talking about the Civil War, and you were talking about people potentially being assassinated, but look at what they're doing now, right? They're publicly assassinating people, right? First, it was Sondland, right? They didn't get what they want out of Sondland. Guess what? That Oregon representative sent people out to picket his hotels and all this, that, and the third. Jonathan Turley comes on. I love the man to pieces. I've been following that guy for a minute. He came on, and he was absolutely brilliant because he interprets the Constitution exactly the way I interpret the Constitution. And as soon as that was over, this man was getting death threats. All kinds of
Sondland got accused of sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Exactly.
They probably lived the women probably lived in Axelrod's building. It reminds me of Herman Cain,
Right.
If you think about it, Rod, what happened with the Judiciary Committee's hearing with 4 constitutional law experts?
Yeah,
3 of them
let me get back to that for a second. Sorry, Jack. Let's go to Ken. I got Ken hanging on the line here. Your reaction to the Civil War dissertation and anything else, sir?
Well, actually, I think the first shot's already been fired. I mean, if you look at the Bernie Sanders supporter that, tried to shoot up every Republican that was on the baseball field, 2 years ago, and thankfully Steve Scalise pulled through everything, but that's essentially the first shot that's the, in my mind, these people.
All right, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this: Are the counties that have declared themselves sanctuary Second Amendment counties, are they clustered together? Are they mostly in the South? Or how's that look if you color a map?
If you color a map, okay, so like right around the major
cities. Just in general, though, not every county. You got like 95 of them.
A lot of them haven't. It's up for debate, but I would say there's the majority of them are down near like the West Virginia, Kentucky area, Southwest
Appalachia, yeah.
Right. Yeah, we're the first county to go green here up in like the northern neck. So, and if you talk to certain people, well, King George is part of the northern neck, but okay, whatever. Regardless, we actually went up and.
My point, Ken, is that
I told you on Wednesday that there was a guy that I know. He works up here. Gateway. He's a small engines guy, and they were like following the chat in the live stream of the board of supervisors meeting, and they were like, "Well, how come there's more of a police presence there?" And somebody commented that, there weren't any freaking Democrats. In the crowd. So there was no need to have a full-on blown, police presence there. No, there were a couple of deputies, and everybody's talking to them because they all know everybody. It's King George. Everybody knows everybody.
It's amazing. All right, so Ken, you have a good weekend. Thanks for calling, as usual, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, there's Ken from King George. Go ahead, Jack. Finish your thoughts up, and I think you were asking Rod something. Go ahead.
I was just basically trying to get this the entire theme, the thematic of all of the almost every single story, article, or situation goes to a known, if you've read Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky, and just that one section where it says, accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty, and you apply it to what this impeachment is going on and every attack that has happened since President Trump. And we got more coming up, clips coming up that's going to just feed more into it. I'm telling you, folks, these are desperate times for the criminals in the swamp that are residing in D.C.
That's true.
We have one person, one administration that has sit there since the day he got elected. He has not wavered from one point. He has tried to fulfill all of his campaign promises. When can you say that about any House of Representative, any senator, or any former president? Just, compare records and see what's happening.
Well said. And it's Friday, ladies and gentlemen, so that means it's time for the weekly Jihad Report. 22 attacks, 121 killed, 119 injured, 0 suicide blasts this week. Getting good there. All this occurring in 8 different countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week. In London, an Islamic fanatic takes down 2 unbelievers. Other recent misunderstandings of Islam. On the 4th in Syria, 8 children and a woman are among 10 disassembled by a Hayat Tahrir al-Sham mortar round. On the 3rd in Iraq, militia kidnap a young Kurdish activist and shoot her in the head. On the 1st, Burkina Faso, a barbaric attack on a church leaves 14 dead. Back to Iraq on the 29th, 2 children are among 3 liquidated when ISIS sends shells into a small town. On the 29th, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, ADF Islamists hack to death or behead 14 innocents at a small village. And on the 29th, in England, a radical Muslim stabs 2 young people to death on the London Bridge. One a woman and the other a graduate student. Note, data for each attack is sometimes pulled from multiple sources. The provided link may not be in complete agreement with the updated detail for the incident. The religion of peace, ladies and gentlemen, one body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it never ends, and we've been documenting it for a long time. We've never had a week of peace since Steel City Resistance was born in 2010. Unbelievable, guys. I want to turn to something here. There's a lot of other things that are going on, and one of them is critical. And there's some things that we can talk about, but I think this is pretty much breaking news. I don't know, Rod, have you heard the stories in the media and in the new media, especially, of Adam Schiff teaming up with AT&T, issuing subpoenas for congressmen and journalists' phone records? This is a little... I think they're overreaching a little bit here, and I don't see how Adam Schiff gets out of this a free man. I mean, I don't know, but it just it's amazing to me the things that are going on. I'm going to play a clip from Laura Ingraham in a minute to detail some of these things, but this is going a little too far. Not that the rest of this hasn't all been a little too far, but you'd think they would stop doing this after we're, aware of what they're doing.
I completely agree, and this really goes back to someone that I was turned on to years ago when I was in college, Yuri Bezmenov, and the ideological subversion warfare. Right, what we're seeing, especially with this, right? They've demoralized people, they destabilized the whole system. Then they've made it into a crisis. It's a big crisis situation, and now the president, like we were speaking before, they're trying to normalize this crisis as being normal, right? They get everybody so amped up, and they're like, "Oh, it's normal just to give up your rights." Really? Like it's okay just to give away your Fourth Amendment right? Just let someone just trample on it because they believe someone did something. As Ilhan Omar would say, some people did something. Well, in this case, the some people are the Democrats that are doing something and a whole lot of other nonsense that's going down in all this, right? But they've got the American people so against the Constitution at this point, right? They're advocating. Well, let me pull that back a second before I go into that part of it, right? But they've got the people so determined that the system does not work that they will create these crisis situations time and time again until the people beg for a change in system because quote unquote is not working when they're the ones subverting it for their own good. And people have to watch out for that. That's folks on both sides.
No, you're so right. You are early on in the current environment, early on. Certainly not early on, because I can tell you when I got ready to do this show, I'll tell you how old I am. When I got ready to do this show and I started thinking about this going to the Senate, I remembered Arlen Specter saying that about Scottish law. That's how old I am. I remember him saying it. I was following.
Remember that.
You know, and I was like, I got to find that clip, and I found it. But I didn't stumble across the clip. I looked for it. But you know, I see this going on, and it is chilling. Let's go to William in Pennsylvania in Beaver County. Hello, William. What's on your mind? Wait, hold on. Let me unmute him. Okay, now you're unmuted.
William.
You didn't hear anything before.
I'm William. I'm up in Beaver County. I'll give my Beaver County report after I'm done asking my question of Rod.
Okay,
But
go ahead and
Rod,
ask.
one on Facebook, I follow a group. It's called Black Guns Matter, and I totally support these people. I don't know if you've run into them. Hello?
Guns Matter, yeah, that's Maj Touré. Yeah, I talk to Maj Touré. That's his group. I talk to them all the time. They're definitely a great group of people. I haven't really done anything with them because we're going in the same direction, but in different directions right now. But yeah, they're definitely good group to work with. And Maj Touré is like the best dude ever.
You know, I've worked with blacks my whole life, and I have no problem. They're every bit as equal as me, but I really don't like the ones that are like, I don't know, some of them get kind of like an attitude to them, but if they're normal people, they're great people. And I've been for 20 years talking to some of them about why they don't go get like concealed carry permits, because they're the ones that are victims. And again, I hate to see victims, and they get real big time advantage taken on because they're just, I don't know why.
William, can you move to a different spot? We're having a little bit of trouble.
Oh, I'm trying.
Hearing you. Okay, there. That sounds much better.
Yeah, I belong to a shooting club that was down in Beaver. It was the Beaver Valley Pistol and Association or something like that. But I shot Combat League for about 20 years. And we had lots of blacks that would come into that. And these are great people. But I don't know why they don't like, the innocent ones are the ones that get hurt. And I don't know how to help. I'd like to help. But I have no fear of honest black people carrying guns next to me. I just have none.
And you're right, and it shouldn't be like that. And and really a lot of that is really what our society has pushed, right? I wouldn't say the media so much, right? But it's what society has pushed in the years of rhetoric, going from both sides of the racial spectrum when it comes to black folks and guns. And it's sad to still, see it where we're in a time like black man has gun, like automatically everybody draws, automatically, or feel unsafe, or say, oh, we want to take the guns out of black folks' hands. I mean, prime example is that guy that got shot up in Chicago last year. He was a armed security guard, and the guy was going in to try to rob the place, and the security guard had the gun pointing at the guy, and the Chicago cop shot him because he thought he was the robber, right?
Yeah,
and it's a lot of it is these progressive policies in these cities, right, that create the innocent black folks in the inner cities and turns them into victims. But you can't tell a progressive that.
The other
but
thing,
that's what we need to get behind these people that need to protect themselves and their families and property.
But William, you were right. You were right when you said about the media. You were right when you said about the media. And let me just tell you what I mean, and then I'll turn it back over to you. But when you have on Mondays on the show, we've incorporated the Chicago Weekend Update, the Chicago Report. And every week there are murders in Chicago. Now, it's lucky for the community there because these people don't know how to shoot. So there's 50 shootings and 2 deaths. All right, that's a fail for anybody that's ever been on the range. That's unacceptable. But that's where we're at. But there is no coverage of that. Ever. There is no coverage. Only when
until it's politically expedient.
That's right. The only coverage is of school shootings and anything that could get you to disarm middle class, Constitution, God-loving Americans. In Chicago, if you ban guns there, that's not going to advance what they want to do. Or not if you ban guns. If you neutralized, in other words, if you took the gun violence in Chicago, New Orleans, Atlanta, Detroit, and you took that off the record books, America would be the safest country in the world to live in. We refuse to identify the problem. And by doing that, we allow this to continue. We allow the stereotypes to continue and everything.
Cook County up in Illinois, I don't think you're allowed to even own guns there.
That's the county that Chicago's
in. The Democrats are just, they've made it impossible.
Yeah, they like to blame Indiana and another border state for the influx of weapons because without those 2 states next to us, we'd be safe. Yeah.
I mean, Rod, really, you're telling me you can confiscate the weapons of gun owners in the United States of America, and you can't do anything about Chicago, man? Really? Does that make any sense to you? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not even what's going to really solve the problem, and I've been preaching this for about 15, 20 years myself. Is we need to eliminate these progressive policies and this progressive rhetoric that coins black folks that may be carrying guns, right, to be a threat, right? We need to. The other thing is we need to restore the culture. We need to restore jobs back in the cities because
let's restore dad
opportunities.
Yeah,
for
that's
advancement.
What I'm saying. Right. That's exactly it. We get that back in the community. We're fine because majority of the murders in the inner cities are gang related. They're dope boys trouncing on other people's dirt. So what do? You get rid of the dope, right? The war on drugs really accelerated that.
Here's the thing.
No doubt, Ron.
Here's the thing.
Didn't help a bit.
Here's the thing, and William, man, any final comments? Thanks for calling. Any final comments?
My Beaver County report for the week is we ended up our year budget in the county with a surplus that we're adding to our 2-month reserve that we can, again, get no revenues and keep up with 2 hours. But they added $2 million to our $12 million. We're up to 10% of our budget for the whole year.
Look at that, and that's in a county right next to Allegheny County, who can't swim.
Yeah.
Who can't swim out of debt.
Communities. We've got. Of
course it is.
Areas. We've got Aliquippa.
Sure.
And
damn right. Good football too. And by the way, next week when the president is in Hershey, Pennsylvania, the Vice President Pence, will be at the VFW in Beaver County. So get your seat there.
Okay.
If you want to talk to.
See if I can. I mean, again, that's why I posted that in our chat room. That is anybody planning to go see Pence?
I might, but I'm not sure yet. I might have to go.
I'm going to try. I mean,
might
again,
have to go
I
up to my
can get
camp.
out of work to go do that.
All right, William, don't work too hard. You got to retire soon, man. You know, you got to start.
Pleasure talking to you, Rod.
You too.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, buddy.
All right,
You're welcome, my man.
Thank you very much. A new patron of Cold War Radio, William from Beaver County, ladies and gentlemen. And I forgot what I was going to bring up, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. Let's listen to what we were talking about with Adam Schiff on Laura Ingraham.
Left, their newfound love, and I mean love, for the surveillance state. Now, since the release of the House Intel Committee's impeachment report, we've learned that Chairman Adam Schiff used his position to dig up and publicize dirt on political rivals and journalists. The Wall Street Journal editorial board noting, this is unprecedented and looks like an abuse of government surveillance authority for partisan gain. Joining me now is Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst and former deputy assistant to President Trump. Fred, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Well, Laura, I got bad news for you. I understand Adam Schiff knows all about your late night crank calls to Sean Hannity.
Oh, okay.
And I'm really not joking too much about this because we know how controversial these phone records are, how much trouble NSA got in for using them. There's real restrictions on them, and Adam Schiff used them to get information on Nunes and to smear him, to get information on Giuliani, the president's attorney, which raises attorney-client privilege issues, and to get information on John Solomon, a journalist that Democrats hate. And there actually is information. They have data on Hannity, and they could have information too.
Well, my sources tonight told me that what Schiff did in his committee is they went to, I think it was one of the cell phone companies.
AT&T.
Yes, AT&T. They had some numbers. Mm-hmm. They didn't know whose numbers they were, but they asked them, tell us what these numbers have been engaged in and what calls these numbers have been making and placing. That's how they found the information. They took that information. That went to the NSA. The NSA, a.k.a. Deep State, then gave them the information that it was Rudy and others. Does that sound plausible to you? These are from extremely reliable sources.
My understanding is Schiff did know who the numbers were of that he sent to AT&T. What I want to know is why did AT&T comply with this request?
They're not under an obligation, right? No subpoena.
When the NSA asks, AT&T always says no. Well, why? Because a powerful Democratic congressman asked for this information. AT&T has a lot to answer for here.
So AT&T answered Schiff's call for information.
In addition, AT&T certainly knew one of those numbers was Nunes's phone and knew they were providing this information to Congress. Frankly, they should have went to the Justice Department or the FBI or a court before they provided that information.
Well, NSA, again, it goes back to the deep. I don't like this surveillance. They used to not like this surveillance.
But the information came from AT&T. AT&T was involved in this. They knew they were providing information on a member of Congress. This really should be investigated.
This is important. By the way, speaking of the OMB, the Wall Street Journal is reporting late tonight that the freakout about Rudy talking to an OMB number might actually be wrong. That number, along with other references in the report to a number associated with the Office of Management and Budget, all correspond to a placeholder number that shows up when officials in several White House departments make calls, according to people familiar with the matter. Fred, if Schiff got that wrong, is it possibly got other numbers wrong as well?
I think he did, but the whole idea that he is looking into who the president's attorney was speaking to raises huge issues on attorney-client privilege. I mean, what was the right that Schiff had to do this? Because in a criminal proceeding, an attorney would have to have special permission from a court to do that. And it looks like Schiff thinks other rules.
So when
privacy rights don't apply to him.
When they say that Trump acts like a king, like he's accountable to no one, like many of the things they charge him of, they are guilty of themselves. The finger's always pointed back at you.
This is abuse of authority. It's abuse of office.
Abuse of power. That's what they accuse Trump of.
That's right, and they think the rules don't apply to them.
Fred, we're going to be on this story, but...
So, wow. I mean, we'll see where this goes. Let's go to Marlene from Eugene, Oregon. Hello, Marlene. I should probably unmute you, too. But you guys call up, and you got this background noise. Go ahead, Marlene.
Hey there. Hey, Jack. Hey. Well, I was, let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Here we are. I was listening to that clip earlier you played with Biden and that retired guy. I actually remember seeing that. I think Ralph posted it. And I will admit, I'm glad that guy got into Biden's face.
Did you hear that after it happened? After it happened, they swarmed him, man.
Oh, no.
The Biden supporters.
Funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's natural. Go ahead.
That's hilarious. And actually, I don't want to spoil your jihad report, but there was something about a 11-year-old girl who was she was murdered as part of an honor killing in Pakistan.
No doubt.
It was just I put the link in the chat earlier, but basically what they were saying is that this little 11-year-old girl, she was stoned to death by her own parents to the point where her face was unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And the parents lied, of course, and they said, "Oh, the girl died accidentally due to landsliding in the mountains." That's a bunch of bull because the evidence they found pointed to the plot by her father to kill the 11-year-old over a forbidden relationship she had begun with another person. I'm like, no. But I know that happens in that culture. I know it really does.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I didn't give Rod a chance to say goodnight. I wasn't paying attention to the chat, to my internal chat. So, Roderick Threets, thanks for coming on the show. Man, I apologize about that. I'm sorry. It happens every now and then.
And on a lighter note, yeah, it does. And on a happier note, I've got my wonderful Ducks are playing Utah for the Pac-12 championship. I have it on my iPad. And Sal was saying, yes, and we're up 17-zip, and we're this is the second quarter. So, anyway, I had to throw it in. And I was going to ask Rod if he follows college football, but I'll do that another point in time.
I got a feeling we're going to have him back on the program.
I hope you do. I really enjoy having him on. That guy is he's wonderful.
I agree. All right. So, Marlene, I'm going to leave you on here. I'm going to try something. I don't know if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, I'll do it on Monday. But I have a call from the podcaster voicemail, and I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it. I'm going to find out. It's 4 seconds in already, and I can't find a way to rewind it, so let's just do this. Okay, you can't hear it on here. That's all right. I will get this thing recorded and straightened out. It's a radio. I will.
Cool.
That'll be on Monday, ladies and gentlemen. I can't do it here without totally disrupting the program. So I will have it on Monday. Again, Roderick Threets, thanks for coming on Cold War Radio. We appreciate that. I want to turn a little bit. Marlene, when I was setting up the intro today, I made a mistake. I thought that was the president's inaugural speech, and it wasn't. We all remember his inaugural speech where he had the entire establishment behind him, and he totally smoked them for who they are and what they have done to the nation.
Right.
And you're going to hear in this clip, and I was hoping to be able to connect these two things, but I got the wrong clip. I thought that was the inauguration, and it wasn't. He clearly mentioned the upcoming election in the intro and everything, but it was about the same. And I will have the inaugural address audio coming up in a future episode. But I want you to listen to Hillary Clinton. And what she's going to do in this clip is she's going to basically blame President Trump. And I want everybody to understand that anytime the president gets accused or ridiculed or dragged through the mud, that's you. They're doing that to you. They hate you because you are in the way of them taking power. This is something that's been going on for ever since the world started spinning, basically, ladies and gentlemen. Let's listen to this deranged person talking to Howard Stern. And in the same interview, she had a massive whooping cough attack and also made sure everybody knew that she wasn't a lesbian. Hillary Clinton.
No, go ahead, get out there. You put on the best face possible. And Bill and I are sitting with George and Laura Bush. And then he started on that speech, which was so bizarre.
It was awesome.
And that's when I got really worried. I thought, wait a minute.
This isn't rational.
It's not rational, but it's also not politics. It's not what a president does. A president is supposed to try to reach out to people who weren't for him or her. You're supposed to say, okay, I'm going to be the president of everyone, those who supported me and those who didn't, because we're going to pull the country together.
Except for the
I'd hoped that I would hear a little of that. I didn't hear any of that. And then that carnage in the street and the dark dystopian vision. I was sitting there like, wow, couldn't believe it. And George W. Bush says to me, well, that was some weird shit.
Wow. And don't you think that these guys in the Republican Party who were even running against him in the primary, who had horrible things to say about him, do you think they secretly look at something like that, a moment like that, and go, "Oh my God, we're in for a horrible scene," or do you think they're all in? I don't know.
I don't think they were all in the beginning. I think that they were still trying to make sense of it. At least the ones that I knew. But a lot of the ones who have spoken out against him have decided to leave politics.
That's right.
They speak out. Then they say they're retiring.
But isn't that cowardly?
I think it is.
Yeah. I think
it's
why
really
retire?
Cowardly. Well, first of all, Howard, these are not just political differences. Look, if I had lost to a normal Republican, I would have been unhappy.
Right.
But I wouldn't have had that pit in my stomach, like, what the heck? What is going to happen? What's he going to do next? His impulsiveness, his vindictiveness, where does this lead? So I think that a lot of Republicans also thought, oh, we can control him, we can manage him, we can do this. And I think what they now have to be considered is just, cowardly.
What goes through your mind when he's got these people revved up? Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. Even now, it's still lock her up. Are you afraid for your own life? Honestly.
Honestly, I have been in the past. And remember, some months ago, the guy who was inspired by him started sending pipe bombs around.
Yeah.
To me, to former President Obama and others.
Inspired by him.
So clearly, he just incites these deep, irrational, and unfortunately sometimes violent emotions. Some of the people who have gone into synagogues and churches and Walmarts and other places and shot them up and murdered people have clearly been unleashed. I don't want to say it's a direct cause. I don't think that's fair. But
people are amped up.
People are amped up. And there's always been, look, human nature being what it is, there's always been a lot of, emotions that people have, biases, prejudices, attitudes, anti-Semitism, racism, whatever it is. But you're supposed to, in a civilization, try to keep that down. I mean, that's part of the job of leaders. And it's also the part of the job of self-disciplining yourself. You can say, okay, I may not like that kind of person, but I would never say that or I'd never do that. But he has made it possible for all the worst impulses. It's like Pandora's box. You lift the top off and things start flooding out.
No, Hillary, that's what you guys are doing, and man, it's going to blow up in your face. Marlene, what do you think?
I think she's a crybaby. And she's just whining, complaining, and Howard's egging her on.
Howard Stern, shame on you, man. Not for having her on and not for letting her talk, but you just let her say all that after what she did during her campaign. And she set the precedent for where we are now. There's no Democrats out there. I mean, think about all of the candidates on the Democrat side. How could any of them govern the whole country? They hate us. They hate us.
No, they can't govern.
They hate our
There's no
country.
way.
They hate white people.
They do.
They hate men.
They hate everybody.
They hate everybody to the point where they're not going to be able to manage themselves. I mean, you've already seen Congressman Green, Al Green coming out. Why weren't there more witnesses of color? What the hell does that mean, man?
Look.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for jumping in, but look at the panel of professors in constitutional law that the Democrats had on when
you guys laugh, but you still send your kids to college. I mean,
Harvard.
They do, yeah.
This is
Stanford.
These places are crazy bankrupting.
And the one person that was basically an adult in the thing was labeled as conservative, a GOP. That's Jonathan Turley, a classic libertarian, saying what was, to me, when I listened to the guys, like, that's common sense.
Right.
Weigh this, weigh that, boom. The rest of them were like, impeach 45. Impeach 45. It's crazy.
Right. Marlene, have a great weekend. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go to Sean. Sean in California. You're up. What's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Watch the clock, man. Don't have much time. Go ahead.
Well, just wanted to give you guys an update on California's 50th district election.
Okay.
It's in the situational development.
Okay. Damn, he's serious.
Republican Duncan Hunter took a plea deal, now has resigned. Now a special election is in full swing.
All right.
We have Carl DeMaio, our Republican candidate, and one of the least favorite candidates that I do not like. Daryl Issa, sorry. Anyway, Daryl Issa is back in the game. He's trying to screw everything up now because there's a poll out, and I don't trust the poll anyways, but we all know what happens when they're going to try to throw in rhino Republicans. They're going to take away all these needed votes for people who we want to vote in. And we got this Democrat, Amar, I can't even pronounce his name. It sounds Middle Eastern. But
it's not Omar Conrad, is it?
Amar Campa-Najjar.
Okay,
Democrat.
that's not him. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyways, it's getting worse here.
All right, continue.
It's getting worse.
It's just getting worse here in the state of California. It's like,
Are you done with school yet, man? Or where are we at with that?
I got three more classes. Three more classes.
Okay.
3 more classes, and then
time to make some money.
Permits next year, which sucks because I didn't know there was a time frame when you had to schedule an appointment with them.
Impeach 45 is the one you're not looking forward to, suffering through. Isn't that like mandatory in California?
Well, I don't really care for California. As far as I'm concerned, nuke it. Nuke it. I'm done. I don't care.
All right. Hey, listen, Kentucky, you called me up. I had a couple callers ahead of you, man. Call me back. You were next, man. You were next if you just hung in there. But anyway, Sean, hang tight, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for calling. Have a great weekend.
You too. Peace out, guys.
All right. Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen, 412-206-6208. Kentucky, call back, man.
Yeah, please do. And I have to apologize to Sean. I was just messing with him a little bit. You know, it's Friday night. I'm sorry.
He'll call in to strike, man. He will.
Yeah.
He's done it before. You know, he's got his head screwed on right. All right, listen. I want to do something here before we get to rolling this up. I want you to hear a report that came on today. But first, we're going to go to Murray, Kentucky, I think. What's your name and where are you really calling from?
This is Crazy Rico, and I'm calling from Western Kentucky.
Okay, Rico, I don't know why I thought you were in Tennessee, but thanks for calling back, man. What's on your mind?
You know what? I was thinking about this whole sort of invasion that we have going on with all these people coming over our border and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about how this is affecting us. You know, this is affecting us in so many ways it's not even funny. One, it's affecting the vote count in California, no doubt about it, which means they're illegally voting over there. Secondly, we as people from the United States basically don't like this. So because they're doing that, the Democratic Party is kind of pitting us against them because we're saying those guys don't belong here. You know?
I do.
And then on top of that, guess what? I consider it like this is a daisy cutter bomb, right? They destroy everything in the way.
Yeah.
$115 billion a year are paid out to illegals throughout the entire nation. $400 million in Kentucky alone. You know? They're inundating our welfare system. And guys that are out there who have disabilities, disabilities, but mental health issues and physical issues, about 2034, it'd be gone if this continues. And then on top of that, you know, crime. Crime is rampant. It's coming over. They're coming from a crime culture. Okay? Now, I'm not saying everyone crossing the border is a criminal.
No, but the organizations that are allowing that are criminal.
Yeah, but the whole thing is that this whole thing with these illegals is very, very destructive. I mean, people are dying. Okay, and I'm not just talking about the fentanyl issue. I'm talking about being shot, being ran over, all that stuff a criminal would do. Okay, and then there's a whole bunch of other things like child rape, all this stuff. If these people were not in here, those things would never happen with those people. And it frustrates the hell out of me that someone wants to say, don't build a wall because it's a racist thing to do. No, it's not. It's the right thing to do because it protects our country and it will slow down, you know, the traffic of illicit drugs. And
now,
that's what I had to say about that.
And that's good. And let me add an additional dimension to that I personally feel, you know, when I look at the threat from the southern border, initially you think about the people that live in the countries below or south of our southern border. But the problem has become, as I alluded, that the organizations that are controlling this movement of people are criminals. And they're criminals that rival the Gambino crime family. And they're much more violent than the Gambino crime family or any crime family in the United States. So they're running the show. So there's other people coming through there as well. But the worst thing, in my opinion, that's happening, and the thing that we better kill very soon, or it's going to kill us, is the leftist plan, or at least tactic, of bringing people from Islamic countries to the United States and settling them in the same grid square, i.e. Minnesota 5, or Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the Somali Muslims that Keith Ellison, with his excellent friendship with the president of Somalia, and George W. Bush and Barack Obama saw to changing Minneapolis into a little Mogadishu. They did that. It happened. Crimes are happening there. Dearborn, Michigan, Rashida Tlaib, same thing there. Islamists in the street doing martial exercises and drilling ceremonies and things like that. Closer to you, Rico, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Huge mega mosque going up. Hamtramck, Michigan. Fully Muslim control of the city council, which means loudspeakers and call to prayer.
That's crazy.
You know, you're right. It is. And if we don't, and there's only us, man. There's only us. There's the people listening to this show. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, look at the EU. The western part of the EU, not the eastern part, not the ones that were under the grasp of the Soviet Union that just found freedom. They're sticking up for themselves, and they're like, hey, and if you think about it, Putin is also for Russia sovereignty.
So is
Trump
China.
is sovereignty.
So is China with the Uyghurs. I mean, it's hashtag fake allies is what it is.
Trump is a complete unwanted foreign substance in the cylinders that were in the globalist movement. Look at how many countries have succumbed to one world, new world order. And when President Trump came in and he said, no Paris Discord, no TPP, we're out of that. I'm going to deal with countries one-on-one. And what we have now is the best economy in the United States in its history. And the media does not want to say anything positive, so that's pushed to the background. And all you hear is Biden saying, I think a recession's coming.
And you hear Pelosi talking about sticking to the Constitution, the chain of command, and the founding fathers. And she's in Madrid, Spain, right now, and told the conference there that the United States of America is still in the Paris treaty.
Right.
Unbelievable. All right, Rico, stick around. I want to go to Valerie Z, but I'm going to do something a little different. We're about ready to run out the clock, and if it goes over a little bit, that's fine. But I'm going to ask if you feel like it. If you don't, that's fine. But our next segment is winners and losers. So, Rico, if you could think of winners and losers of the week, and Valerie, I'll put some real pressure on you and say you can too. But, ladies and gentlemen, Valerie is a co-host at the Conservative Enclave on Tuesdays, I believe. Valerie Z, hello.
Hi. Hello, Hutch. There's too many guys calling in tonight, so I just said, I gotta. But, you know, one of my pet peeves is we can talk about all these Islamic terrorists that are coming over and we got to keep them out. They're already here, and they have set up camps in the woods and in the country of almost every town USA. And when I was living in upstate New York, we knew they were 50 miles away, setting up camps in the woods and training people. And my husband who passed away, we owned a small airport upstate. These guys were trying to learn how to fly. They were trying to use our airplanes, and we said, get out. We saw who they were. I mean, we have to start right here, at home, on the local level, as Roderick would say, and get these guys out that are here, that are setting up military camps. We should not be tolerating this at home.
No, I agree. And the most unsettling part of all of it, and believe me, Valerie, I've covered this. I covered this back in 2010. That's why I brought up Murfreesboro with Rico. And you're talking about Islamberg. I brought that up too. I mean, this is a real thing. But the most unsettling part of it is the FBI knows all about it.
Yes, they do.
They know all about it. The entire federal government knows about this, and they allow it to continue. And that's why I say, and by the way, the Muslim imam that is in Pennsylvania,
Fethullah Gulen
from Turkey, that Erdogan wants, we should have gave them to him.
Hand them over.
That's right. This guy is a frickin' terror, and it just other than the Saudi money, I still and I'd like some input from you people. I mean, why are we letting this happen? And like I said, initially, give me a forensic financial investigator that can show me where the Saudi money went, because that's the only thing I can think of. Any thoughts?
Well, it's interesting that how quickly the Saudi government responded to one of their military people being trained, killing Americans.
Yep.
And you have the United States government suppressing evidence of the 19 hijackers that sunk the Twin Towers on 9/11 that created what we have now is the war on terror. I mean, do you see like a stark disconnect, right? One, you have somebody in Saudi uniform killing people. One, you have 19 Saudis, who knows who trained them, bringing down the towers and ushering in, this war on terror.
Rico?
Well, you talked about one of the biggest losers, right? I'm going to say it has to be the people that are being terrorized and shot and killed by the Islamic radicals, because there's around 36,000 deadly terrorist attacks since 9/11, all by Islamic radicals. The biggest losers are the people that are being terrorized by these people.
And you break that down, and it's mostly Muslims.
It is. That's what I said. It's like 36,000 Muslims attacked since 2011. It's like 4 or 5 from Christians and 4 or 5 from the...
No. I meant the victims. I meant even the victims of the Muslim attack. The vast majority.
Yeah, definitely.
The vast majority of the bodies are Muslim
countries.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It is. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and I guess the thing that flummoxes me the most, I don't believe I just used that word, but I did, is that, there's no interest. If you say anything about this, you're labeled immediately. I learned this years ago, but I defeated so many Muslims on Twitter. It was fun. But I'm just saying, it's like the coexist bumper sticker nauseates me. Yeah. When I see that, and it's on like a little Dodge Neon, I'll use the same model car or whatever, and it's like, you have 2 beautiful daughters. Are you stupid? I mean, really, do we not know the facts by now? And apparently, we have a lot of work ahead of us, because apparently a lot of the percentage of Americans don't know. They don't have a clue.
Can I say something about, the Muslims that are here in this country?
You absolutely can.
There's a lot. I don't know how many. There are a lot of Muslims in this country. Okay?
True.
And the reason why they are here, I think it's around 1 million or something like that, is to get away from that tyranny, from state-funded tyranny, from state-funded terrorism, because many Muslim countries basically use Sharia law as part of their law system. So, and Sharia law is basically highly discriminating towards women and all those sorts of things. As a matter of fact, a 10-year-old kid who's a man or a boy has more rights than a female that's 50 years old.
This is true.
But the thing is that they're coming here, right? You got about 1.2 million of them that are here. Not all of them are, radicalized. Most of them are just an average religious individuals, just like our average Christian is. But out of those 1.2 million people, there's around 200,000 that have basically left the religion, left it because it was too brutal. So I hope that us as Americans realize that there are a lot of Muslims here, okay, that are not the way those people are in the Middle East on the radical side. They're
All
not
right.
here for that.
All right, I let you. All right, hold on now. I let you say all that. And I was biting my tongue, and I'm wiping the blood off my chin right now. But unfortunately, that's not an accurate portrayal of what's happening in the United States. And what I mean, Rico, when I say that, is that there was a trial, and it was called the Holy Land Foundation trial. And Andrew McCarthy was the head federal prosecutor on the case. And the organizations that have been established by the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States of America, the first being the Muslim Students Association, and shortly thereafter, CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, should be deemed terrorist organizations. And what I mean when I say that, and if you look at the pedigree of most of the sensational terrorists anyway, they're all alumni of the Muslim Student Association, which is in just about every major college in the United States of America. And there were documents uncovered that are available at steelcityresistance.com in the research room. The memorandum of the Muslim Brotherhood that declared back in the 90s, this was, the Islamic takeover of the Western world and specifically the United States of America. And if you look at those 10 points, they've successfully carried out about 4 of them, if not 5. In other words, there may be, and there are, non-practicing Muslims in the United States of America. But if you are a practicing Muslim, you either believe the shit or you don't. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about what they believe, you have to look in to their trinity. I hate to use that word, only because it annotates 3 of their teachings: the Quran, the Hadiths, and the Sunnah. And the Hadiths and the Sunnah specifically, I can't remember which one of them, but one of them is the portrayal of Muhammad and his life and how every Muslim needs to live like Muhammad. Well, Muhammad was a pedophile. His wife Aisha, he didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Do anything with her until she was 13. So it was cool.
Actually, it's not.
And this is why you see so much pedophilia when it comes to Muslim immigrants, especially when they see white women. And I'm not trying to make that an issue. It's just true. It's what's happened.
It is true.
All you have to do is look in England or anywhere in our fake allies in Western Europe. And it's, you go to Google and you Google Muslim England and watch what comes up. It's going to be Rotherham, Rotherham.
Well, yeah, I do believe, that a true Muslim who actually believes that they have to follow, the Quran and all that, believes that they absolutely can do whatever they want. So whatever land they stand on, it's theirs. If they're in the middle of the street, it's theirs. If a white woman dressed a certain way walks by, it's theirs to do what they want with. And this is not compatible with, the way we live in the United States of America. I do understand
You're right.
that. I understand that there are people that are here that are doing that.
But the most important thing, Rico, to me, and to this battle, I think, is the language. And that is defining Islam as a religion is ridiculous. Yeah. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a political system that has laws for me, dude. Me. Their political system has taxes for me because I'm not a Muslim. And that's unacceptable in any stretch. Valerie, over to you. I could hear you just want to say something.
Oh, I'm huffing and puffing here. All I want to say is my loser is the FBI that allows these military training camps to exist in our country and go on without taking them down and protecting us right here, no walls, get them out. And my winner is anyone in the Justice Department, one or two of them, that stands up to these bastards, and they're doing it alone, and I give bravo to them, because it's really intimidating to have to stand up to liars and say what they are at least saying. I hope we do get our day in court, because this is ridiculous. It's going on way too long. I know we're all angry, we're all frustrated, but we got to do something.
I agree, Valerie. Boca Raton, Florida. Thank you for calling, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Hutch.
Thanks, Valerie.
All right, so that, and Rico, I wasn't trying to. I'm trying to explain this because it didn't come to me all at once. It took me a long time to figure this out, and it's just something that is so important. If we allow Islam to be morally equivalent to the other, I think it's called Abrahamic religions,
There's three of them.
We're doomed, because our Constitution will kill us if we allow that to happen. If we allow the First Amendment to apply to a cult, really, that wants to, that has published documents that want to take us down, well, then that's our own fault, and I didn't do my job in my little way of doing it. So, Jack, let's hold on a second. Let's move. Well, go ahead. You respond.
I just, just to be clear about something, I don't think that every Muslim here, is a nice individual. There's plenty of other Muslims that are here for other subversive reasons. And to prove that, it's simple. We've got 25 honor killings every single year. So they're trying to force their culture onto us by doing things like that.
Have you followed it? Have you followed any of those cases? The American judges rule in their favor a lot of times.
It's ridiculous. It's almost like complaining about women not being arrested as much as men. It's like it's 100 men are arrested to one woman, and I guess men are bad and women are good. It's the same thing with Muslims. It's just like there's some righteousness that they have.
Right, but if they follow it, then they're on one side of this issue. I watched and if you go to Memory TV, MEMRI, Memory TV, I think it's Spencer, but I'm not sure. There's a guy over there that translates Arabic language videos into English. Yes. And I watched this interview, and there was I guess he was about 14, might have been 16-year-old boy on the panel with his mother and a talk show host. And they're talking, and the mother said something about, well, he's not very respectful or whatever. This kid jumped up and threw a flying kick at his own mother, hit her in the face on television. And I've heard stories in Canada of American couples adopting Muslim boys, and by the time they were 7 or 8, they took them back because they were afraid for the lives of the females in the family, including the mother. And I'm thinking, man, oh my goodness, this is a cultural thing.
It's indoctrination of kids. It's what they're doing.
You look at the madrasas. Yeah, you look at the madrasas. They're forced to. They're not learning anything. They're forced to recite verses of the Quran by the threat of whips, like cat o' nine tails.
I've seen videos of if they didn't get the Quran right, they beat the hell out of the kid until they get it right. The only way that we can get this thing settled with the Muslims is the Muslims have to be, this Islam so-called religion has to become a personal religion, and it cannot be forced upon you. And we gotta tell that to Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and everybody else, saying, hey, what you're doing, using your rules, is violating the rights of women and a lot of other people.
Yeah, it's not compatible. I mean, even the founding fathers, I think it was John Adams, wrote that the First Amendment does not apply to religious groups that are a threat to the state. And if there was ever a religious group that was a threat to the state, it's this cult. There's nothing religious about it, man. It's moon battery.
Separation of church and state needs to be utilized in our Eastern brethren.
Yeah, I mean,
what has to happen.
To the extent that it was put in the Constitution which was that the government cannot say that there is an American religion you must follow. That's the extent of the First Amendment, separation of church and state. A lot of that stuff has been invented, since the 60s. The original intent was, we're not going to be like King Edward was in the country we left, where you had to be a member of the Anglican Church or we were going to take all your rights away. That was what the First Amendment was about, not dismissing God from our lives.
Well, the way I look at it, and I'm not a Christian. I'm actually an atheist, and I think Christians have the right to say what they want in school. As long as the school does not force any type of religion down anybody's throat as being taught. Or you have to do this, or else you'll have to do this.
Yeah,
I believe that these radical atheists that are out there, they're trying to saying you can't say this, you can't say that, there shouldn't be God in the Pledge of Allegiance and all that stuff. They're full of shit.
Let me ask you something, because I tend to feel that you're probably a veteran. Maybe not. You're not?
No.
Okay. Well, you sound.
I'm an educated individual.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you: were you ever in a situation where your whole world was falling around you?
Oh yeah.
Who'd you pray to, brother?
Nobody.
Oh man, because I'll tell you, I got to say, every night I was in Iraq, I prayed before I went to bed. Man, I was like, please don't let that rocket hit my room. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, but that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. I mean,
when it comes to death and dying, the way I look at it is that when I'm gone, I don't feel anything ever again.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's go to winners and losers. Jack, over to you, sir. Winners and losers for this week.
Very, very. Thanks for joining in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I love the opportunity to hear other people's opinion. My winner for this week is the United States economy, and I'll sum it up with Fox Business Channel's Charles Payne's 2 tweets. The first one says, "Breaking news. America is kicking ass. 256,000 jobs created last month. Wages up 3.1%, beating the consensus. And past reports revised higher, plus 41,000 jobs. Hashtag winning, winning, winning." And
all right, hold on.
Before
you get to, you're not to the losers yet. Stop before you get to the losers.
No,
Go ahead.
Yeah. And 2 minutes later, he said, "Hey, thanks for the call."
Thanks for calling.
2 minutes later, he said, "My bad. I shouldn't type with that much adrenaline. The jobs created was 266,000." All right,
ladies and gentlemen, let me give you the 16th story on CNN. In other words, you got to scroll down through 15 negative stories, and then this.
Keep looking at the New York Post website for a correction of that story they wrote about on Monday about how December wasn't starting out so good and how wrong you were going to be. They're not. I'm not. It's not forthcoming, I don't think. But you were exactly right about the economic backdrop, and there's good things happening, and it validates some of the moves, right?
growth with very little inflation. I wish people were making a little more money. Obviously, Joe, we want people to make more money. There's a fellow by the name of Michael Sembles. I don't know if you know him, but he is the chairman of market and investment strategy at JP Morgan. He came up with a list of what the cable companies, cable, CNN, MSN, what do they cover? The number 16th is positive economic news. All the rest of them are negative. So you know what's going on here, Joe. People don't want to say good things. And this is the best number I've ever seen in my life.
Kramer in his life.
Well, I said this earlier, can it last forever, Jim? How can it last forever unless it's a participation rate? And
No, I think it has to go up, Joe, because when we win the trade war, which we're going to win now because we have the better numbers, then they're going to have to put jobs here. That's what they're going to have to do. We're not even talking about that yet. In the end, the Chinese are going to have to put jobs here because this thing is the president can walk away from the table with this number.
You are so anti-normal, knee-jerk thinking of the MSM. So we could actually have more jobs coming back if we win the trade war. No, you won't see that written or said anywhere.
Well, sometimes the truth sets people free.
Cold War.
That's a beautiful
radio.
Joe, you and I both know. These are 50 years, okay? Now, I'm 64. There's beating. I didn't know about things were in 13 when I was 13 and 14, other than the war. But these are. I'm not going to say it. You can't contradict that these are the best numbers of our lives.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, we had guns and butter when we were doing these things 50 years ago, and that followed with inflation and recession. I don't see inflation. I don't see recession. 50 years ago, that number was a curse. Now it's a blessing. And you know something, Joe? It doesn't matter whether you hate them or like them. These are real numbers. Someone said Janet Yellen numbers. That was funny.
Since 1969. That's literally longer than I've been alive.
Well, I mean, what am I going to do? I'm not from the Nathan Johnson School of Economics.
So there it is, man. I mean, you heard this guy. He's like one of the chief economists ever. And he sounds like I sounded when I, got my first pretty girlfriend. It's like,
exactly. Wow. The cherry is broken. And you're talking about somebody that's been and if you're in there, the economists, these people with the stock market, they have no ties to any party, right?
Right.
And he's out here saying, "I have never seen."
And let me give a little bit of advice. Let me give a little. And damn, I wanted to talk to Rod about this, but because he laments that a lot of these jobs aren't hitting the inner cities. And let me just give some advice to those of you of working age, especially males in the inner city, black males. Let's just be real. All right, young black males.
Or the leadership within those communities.
Do you want to work? Because here's how you can break out of the Democrat-controlled plantation, man. Here's how you can do it. Right. It's very simple. First, stop all the bullshit that you're doing. If you're doing anything illegal, stop it. Clean it up. Clean up your house. And then the next thing is try to make some money, couple $100, couple $300, couple $400, $500, $600, $700, $800. And move, goddammit. Move. Get away from the people that you're around right now. And then get a CDL. Get a commercial driver's license. And then do a little bit of work on Google, because we know you can do that. And go find a job in the energy industry, guys. Get out there and go to South Dakota. Go to Pennsylvania. Go find a job in the energy sector, and you will have $100,000 a year job within a couple years if you get your lazy ass out of bed in the morning and go to frickin' work.
Yeah, stop shooting each other over street corners.
You're goddamn right.
That you don't even own in the first place.
Go make some money that you're allowed to make. Become a taxpayer. You're a loser, Jack.
My loser. I thought I used to said I'm a loser. I was like, what?
No, man.
My loser this week happens to be a candidate for the Democratic nomination for president, and that would be corn pop fighting fat older guy disrespecting Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Because this seems to be, I don't know why.
You know what? You know what people want to know? They want to know when someone's going to jail. I tell people that's the question. More often than not, when I'm walking through an airport or something, people walk up to me. When is somebody going to jail for the wrongdoing that took place in the Trump-Russia investigation or even the Clinton investigation?
That's a damn lie, Jack. Come on, man. I'll do some push-ups on the back.
IQ
stroke,
test.
Swimming on you with the YMCA. You better sit down.
Fat boy. All right, I'm going to shock you. I'm going to shock you. Thank you, cough button. I'm going to shock you. I'm going to thok you. I'm going to shock you with my winner, really, because this guy got talked down a lot. But my winner of this week, Jack, is Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani took a stutter step because the leftists and the media, same thing, got scared, man. They got scared because they saw him really digging up dirt. And I heard conservative outlets smashing this guy and saying how bad he was and we should get rid of him and he shouldn't be, the face of the Trump administration. He came back, baby. He did. And guess where he is right now? He's in Ukraine right now, and he's interviewing prosecutor Shokin. Imagine that. He found $3 more billion of United States aid that was extorted. Stay tuned for tape, ladies and gentlemen.
The same administration that just handed Iran 1.5 on pallets.
How about that? That's my winner is Rudy Giuliani. He came back with a vengeance. He's as strong as he's ever been. And thank you, President Trump, for not bailing on the guy. I know you tried to distance yourself, but that was because of advisors, I'm sure. He's a solid guy. Keep him in the stable. My loser of this week, Adam Schiff. I got to tell you, I actually have another winner before Adam Schiff. And that is 22-year-old G. Romero, a sailor at Pearl Harbor, who had numerous disciplinary problems. But the United States Navy, who is really the loser, decided that even though he's under anger management counseling and due for a captain's mast at Pearl Harbor, they still allowed him to go under arms. In other words, he had an M4 and an M9, which the M4 is a fully automatic assault weapon, unlike any civilian versions, and an M9 substandard sidearm from Italy. And he killed 3 people, 3 DOD civilians with his M4, and then took himself out with the M9. And nobody will ever, ever hear about this guy. He got away with it. You know why? Because of the Muslim killer from Saudi Arabia, who the next day did the same thing in Pensacola, or close to the same thing. So he's the winner, really, because nobody's ever going to hear his name. So I'll tell you his name one more time. G, I don't know his first name. It's G. Romero. A discipline problem that the Navy refused to deal with. So there's that. Loser is Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff, Jack, this guy, if he doesn't end up in prison at the end of this, America's over.
If you check out his district, I think it's labeled as Burbank.
Yeah,
and if
he's in Burbank, California.
Burbank,
very close to
Hollywood
Mr.
television
Buck.
show.
Mr. Buck. Mr. Buck. Oh. If you remember Ed Buck, the guy that lured black
Adam liked to spend the night
homosexual, black homosexual homeless people, and shoot them up with meth, and who the hell knows what him and Schiff did with that guy. I mean, it's devilish. It's devilish, Jack. It's past political, and when you start peeling, damn, I almost went there. I almost used the vernacular that the whole press uses, so I'll change it. If you start really looking at the details, these people that we're up against, they're really sick. They are.
And if anyone tuned in to the show live or in perpetuity catches it on a rebroadcast where they want to listen to truth, checks them out. Saul Alinsky, right?
There you go. There it is, right there. And it's at the end of the night. So what we try to do at the end of the night.
When we get ready to close late night, and all the bartenders and all, we call it the $5 bag. Anything we got left over, we fix them a $5 bag, about $8 worth of food for $5.
So there's that, Jack. Another great show. I want to thank Rico and Roderick Treats for coming on. Valerie Z, Marlene, Ken, the Duke of California. Who else called in? Anybody else? Yeah, William. Yeah. Thanks everybody. Please continue.
Love the callers, love the guests. I mean, bam. Hey, this is America. This is the bastion of freedom and liberty across the United States. And
you're right about that. You're right about that.
Please share the show. Help us out.
Become a patron. That's the best thing you can do. You want to help us out. Help me support my co-hosts. Become a Cold War Radio patron at Steel City Resistance.
Ken Crater in the chat room is looking for his $5 bag.
Down in Camelot. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We'll be back on Monday. I'm going up to Camp Vienna tomorrow morning, I think. Man, I got to solidify that. I got to get my ass together and get up there.
Get it rolling. Hey,
I haven't been up for a while.
We're in a battle for this constitutional republic, and
that's it.
We can't stop.
That's right. God bless, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out of here. We'll catch you Monday. Please go to rsbn.bandcamp.com and support Jacob Seals.
eagle born to those who pledged their lives in sacred honor, was smiled upon by God and freed from chains and iron collar. He is held aloft on unity and by history revered. For preserving peace through strength, his wings now reach across 200 years. But for each of those in 1 year more, God has smiled upon the core. From the Barbary coast to the eastern sand, by sword, by gun, or by bare hand. So it's been and shall be weighed. Though many are born, few are made. Faithful always they shall remain. Dogs to loose when war is waged. I'm
destiny wherever you are.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.